A mafia boss, serving a life sentence, walked out of one of Italy's most secure prisons. Through the front door, no one stopped him, no one noticed. He disappeared for 20 years, until one day, he was found because of a single image on Google Maps. June 26, 2002, Rebibbia Prison, Rome. One man vanished from one of Italy's most secure prisons. And the craziest part? A film crew was shooting a movie inside the prison, and he walked right out the front door. Gioino Gamino was serving a life sentence for murder at Rebibbia. On the afternoon of June 26th, while cameras rolled and actors performed their scenes, he slipped into a crowd of visitors and film extras and disappeared into the streets of Rome. But this isn't just a story about a prison escape. It's about the mafia boss who built an entirely new life in Spain for 20 years. The Google Street View car that accidentally photographed him standing outside his own shop. And the Facebook page that confirmed his identity because of a scar on his chin. He opened a restaurant serving Sicilian food under a fake name in a country where every cop in Italy was looking for him. This is how one of Italy's most wanted mafia fugitives stayed hidden for 2 decades and was brought down by a Google camera car. Gioino Gamino, born in 1961, Agrigento, Sicily. He grew up in one of the most dangerous corners of southern Italy, a place where organized crime wasn't just a presence in the background. It was the foundation of daily life. The streets of Agrigento were controlled by men who answered to no government, men who made their own laws. By the early 1980s, Gamino had carved out his place in the Stida, a Sicilian mafia clan based in Agrigento. The Stida wasn't as internationally famous as Cosa Nostra, but within Sicily, they were just as feared, just as violent, and the two groups were locked in a bloody territorial war that would last for years. Bodies turned up regularly, bombings, assassinations. It was an all-out war for control of the island's criminal underworld. How does a young man from a small Sicilian town become one of the most dangerous criminals in Italy? In Gamino's case, it started early. In 1984, at just 23 years old, Gamino first came to the attention of law enforcement. And not just any law enforcement. The man investigating him was Giovanni Falcone, the legendary anti-mafia prosecutor who was building cases that would eventually dismantle significant portions of the Sicilian mafia structure. Falcone was one of the bravest men in Italy, and he had Gamino in his sights. The investigation led to Gamino's first arrest, but this was only the beginning. What did Falcone's investigation uncover about this 2-3-year-old? Enough to arrest him, but not enough to keep him locked away for good. Not yet. After his release, Gamino didn't slow down. He accelerated. Over the next several years, Gamino continued to climb the ranks of the Stida. He wasn't just a soldier following orders. He was becoming a leader, a boss. Drug trafficking, extortion, protection rackets. The Stida's war with Cosa Nostra was intensifying across Sicily, and Gamino was right in the thick of it. And with that level of power came a level of violence that would eventually seal his fate. In 1989, 5 years after his first arrest, Gamino committed the act that would define the rest of his life. He murdered a passerby in Campobo d'Acata. According to investigators, he'd mistaken the man for a rival mafioso from Cosa Nostra, an innocent civilian walking down the street, dead because of a case of mistaken identity. This was the kind of man Gamino was, ruthless, reckless, and willing to kill anyone who got in his way, even the wrong person. Why would a man with this kind of heat on him stay in Italy? He didn't. After the murder charge, Gamino went on the run. He fled Italy entirely, making his way to Spain, Barcelona, the Catalan capital, far from Agrigento, far from the investigators building cases against him, For nearly a decade, from 1989 to 1998, he managed to stay hidden. 9 years of freedom, 9 years as a ghost. But then in 1998, it caught up with him. Spanish authorities arrested him in a bar in the center of Barcelona. He was extradited back to Italy to face trial. The courts found him guilty. Murder, drug trafficking, Mafia association, a long list of crimes that added up to one sentence: life in prison. Remember that life sentence? It's going to matter because Joino Gamino had absolutely no intention of spending the rest of his life behind bars. He'd already escaped once, in a sense, by fleeing to Spain, and he was about to do it again. Rebibbia Prison, located in the northeastern outskirts of Rome, one of Italy's largest correctional facilities. The complex was massive. Multiple buildings spread across a sprawling compound. Multiple security levels. Thousands of inmates housed in different wings based on their threat classification. The prison had a long history. It held everyone from petty criminals to the most notorious mafia figures in the country. High walls, guard towers, electronic surveillance, armed officers at every checkpoint, visitors screened, phone calls recorded. Gamino was held in the G12 wing, second floor. This was the high security section. In Italian prison terminology, it was called the Alta Sicurezza regime, the strictest level of detention, short of solitary confinement, designed specifically for mafia bosses, terrorists, and the most dangerous inmates in the system. Strict surveillance, limited movement, constant head counts, regular cell inspections, every visitor logged and approved days in advance. Could anyone really escape from a place like this? The answer seemed obvious. No. How do you escape from a high-security wing in one of Italy's largest prisons, especially when you're a convicted mafia boss serving life? The guards knew exactly who Gamino was. His face was familiar to every officer on the wing. His movements were tracked throughout the day. His visitors were logged, verified, and supervised. But Rebibbia had a weakness, and it wasn't in the walls. It wasn't in the fences. It wasn't in the locks. It was in the chaos of everyday operations. In the summer of 2002, that moment arrived. June 26, 2002, a Wednesday, just before lunchtime, a film production company had been granted permission to shoot scenes inside Rebibbia. The movie was called X, directed by Alberto Negrin. The star was actress Victoria Belvedere. The production needed the authenticity of a real prison, and so a crew of about 30 operators and technicians, plus actors and extras, had set up inside the facility. Cameras, lights, equipment everywhere. On that same day, around 12:30 p.m., approximately 60 inmates gathered on the large green lawn next to the prison chapel. Visiting hours. Family members had come to see their loved ones. The area was crowded, loud, a mix of inmates, relatives, children, and prison staff trying to manage it all. Gamino had obtained special authorization just days earlier to visit the same area. Officially, it was supposed to be a brief greeting. His sister, Giovanna Maria Pia, and his mother, Angela Ingaglio, were there to visit his brother, Angelo, who was also an inmate at Rebibbia. But here's the thing. Gamino's name wasn't on the official visitor list for that day. The authorization had been granted at the very last minute, a rushed decision. A small administrative detail that would later raise very serious questions. What happened next would change everything. 12 sec and 20 p.m. Between takes of the film, as the crew prepared for the next scene, another prisoner suddenly began climbing one of the prison walls, screaming, refusing to come down, creating absolute chaos. The alarms went off. Every available guard rushed toward the wall. Officers converged from across the facility. The film crew stopped shooting. Director Negrin and his team froze. Visitors panicked. Children started crying. The screaming prisoner clung to the wall. Guards shouted at him to come down. More officers arrived. The alarm kept blaring across the compound, and that's when Gamino moved. He didn't run. Running would draw attention. Instead, he walked calmly, deliberately toward the crowd of visitors being herded to the exit. In the confusion, with every guard focused on the wall climber, with the film crews scrambling to protect their equipment, with visitors being ushered toward the exits for their own safety, Gamino slipped into the crowd. He was just another face among dozens of panicking civilians. A guard stood near the exit gate, waving people through. Gamino kept his head down, kept walking. The guard glanced at him. 1 second, 2 seconds, then waved him past. This was Italy, not the United States. Italian prisoners didn't wear orange jumpsuits. They wore their own civilian clothing. Gamino looked like any other visitor, any other film extra, any other person caught up in a prison emergency. The guards pushed everyone toward the main exit. For your safety, move quickly. Out now. And Gamino walked right out with them. What if that guard at the gate had looked more carefully? What if he'd recognized the face of the Mafia boss from the high security wing? 1 second of extra attention, that's all it would have taken. But the guard didn't look twice, and Gamino was through. Some reports say he hid inside a small delivery truck. Others say he walked straight through the main gate, passing himself off as a visitor. Either way, by the time the chaos died down, Gamino was gone. 3 p.m. 2.5 hours later, prison staff conducted a routine check. That's when they realized one of Italy's most dangerous criminals had vanished. 2.5 hours of freedom before anyone even noticed. Was the wall climber a distraction? Investigators later believed the other prisoner's escape attempt was staged. A deliberate diversion plan to draw every guard's attention, while Gamino made his move. Some even suspected that a Mafia-connected individual posing as a guard may have assisted from inside. Every entrance to Rebibbia was sealed. Gamino's family members were detained. Every corner of the prison was searched. The film crew's vehicles and equipment trucks were inspected. The production company was held inside Rebibbia for 4 hours, while officers tore the place apart. It was too late. Gamino was gone. Italian media reported on the escape the very next day, June 27th. One of the 500 most dangerous fugitives in Italy had walked out of a high-security prison during the filming of a television movie. It was a national embarrassment, and now he was out, somewhere beyond the walls of Rebibbia. Late afternoon in Rome, the sun still warm on his face. No guards watching from towers. No walls closing in, no cell counts at dawn, no lights out at 10. For the first time in 4 years, Gamino could walk in any direction he chose. The streets of Rome stretched out in every direction. No one was watching. No one was counting. Just the sound of traffic. Just the hum of a city that had no idea a convicted killer was walking its streets. Just the smell of exhaust and summer air. Just freedom. He'd done it. He'd walked out of one of Italy's most secure prisons through the front door. But he knew something that most fugitives forget in the excitement of that first taste of freedom. This was the most dangerous moment. The first hours. The first days. Every police officer in Italy would be looking for him within hours. His photograph would be on every desk in every station, at every border crossing. He needed to disappear. Not just from Rome, not just from Italy. He needed to become someone else. A different name, a different country, a different life. And he did. Gamino fled to Spain. He knew the country well. He had lived in Barcelona for 9 years before his 1998 arrest. He spoke the language. He understood the culture. And most importantly, he understood how to blend in. But this time, he didn't go back to Barcelona. Too risky. Too many people might recognize him. Instead, he chose Galapagar, a quiet residential town of about 25,000 people, northwest of Madrid. Not a tourist destination, not a major city, just a quiet place where nobody asked too many questions. He changed his name. Manuel. He cut off all contact with his family back in Italy. No phone calls, no letters, no emails, no visits, nothing. For more than 10 years, he didn't speak to a single person from his old life. Not his mother, not his sister, not his brother. Because he understood something most fugitives never do. The moment you reach out to your past reaches back and grabs you. He got married. His wife, a Spanish woman, became his partner in life and in business. Together, they built a life in Galapagar that looked completely ordinary, invisible. First, he worked as a chef. Then he opened a restaurant, La Cocina de Manu, Manu's Kitchen. He cooked what he knew best, Italian food, Sicilian specialties. The menu even featured a dish called Santa Siciliana. The restaurant's logo was designed to resemble the Godfather poster. But instead of puppet strings, it showed hands holding a fork and spoon, with spaghetti dangling down. He even created a Facebook page for the business, with photos of himself in his chef's uniform. Think about that. What kind of fugitive opens a restaurant serving food from the exact region he's hiding from? What kind of wanted man puts his own face on Facebook? A man who believed no one would ever find him. When the restaurant closed around 2014, Gamino didn't disappear. He didn't lay low. He opened another business, a fruit and vegetable shop, El Huerto de Manu, Manu's Garden, located on Avenida de los Voluntarios in Galapagar. The name was painted clearly above the entrance, along with a phone number. He also ran a hair salon with his wife. 3 businesses, same name, same town, year after year. Laun Chen Lin Wu, Laun Chen Ling Bak, Laun Chen Ling Ishar, Laun Chen Ling Ishar Wu, Laun Chen Ling Ishar Ba. Gamino became part of the town. Just Manuel, the grocer, the former chef, a quiet, hard-working man. No one suspected anything. Every day, the same routine. Wake up, open the shop, arrange fruits and vegetables, greet customers, chat with neighbors, go home, cook dinner, sleep, repeat. For 20 years, that was his life. No violence, no drugs, no mafia, just survival. But there was one thing he didn't understand. Every day he stood outside that shop, he was leaving traces, digital traces. Because you can change your name, you can change your country, you can cut off your entire past. But there's one thing you can't change, your face. And Gamino had something even worse, a distinctive scar on the left side of his chin, from a knife fight years ago in Sicily. It never faded. Then, one afternoon, in July 2018, a Google Street View car drove down his street. Its rooftop camera captured everything. A normal afternoon, 2 men standing outside a small fruit shop, one of them wearing a beige shirt. That man was Gamino. The image was uploaded online, public, visible to anyone, and it just sat there for years. Gamino didn't notice, or maybe he didn't care. After 16 years on the run, who was going to find him on Google Maps? But investigators in Italy never stopped looking. They had a tip. Gamino was alive, somewhere in Spain. They didn't know where, until they heard about a small fruit shop with the name Manu. An investigator opened Google Maps, typed El Huerto de Manu, Galapagar, and there it was, the shop, and in front of it, a man. Same build, same posture, but Google blurred faces. They needed more, so they dug deeper. The phone number on the shop sign, they searched it. It led to an old restaurant, La Cocina de Manu, That restaurant still had a Facebook page, and on that page, photos, clear photos, of the chef. They compared it with old images of Gamino, used age progression, checked every detail, and then they saw it. The scar, left side of the chin, it was him. December 17th, 2021, Galapagar, Spain. Italian and Spanish police moved in. They found him walking down the street. Just another normal day. For Manuel, 19 years, 5 months, 21 days. After his escape, they surrounded him, identified themselves, arrested him. He didn't run. He didn't fight. He just stood there, stunned. And then he asked one question, a question that made headlines around the world. How did you find me? I haven't even called my family for 10 years. The officer showed him the image, that Google Street View photo. We saw you on Google Maps. Think about that. A film crew helped him escape in 2002, and a camera car helped catch him nearly 20 years later. Cameras gave him freedom, and cameras took it away. Gamino was extradited back to Italy in 2022, back into the prison system he had once walked out of. But this time, there would be no escape. He was 61 years old, older, but the scar was the same, and the life sentence was still waiting. Murder, drug trafficking, Mafia associación, the killing of an innocent man. He would spend the rest of his life in prison. 20 years of freedom, a restaurant, a shop, a family, a normal life, all erased. Because of a camera that just happened to drive down his street. To this day, the escape from Rebibbia remains one of the most embarrassing incidents in Italian prison history. A mafia boss walking out the front door. While a movie was being filmed just meters away, the case raised serious questions. Security failures, possible inside help. And one more thing, Giovanni Falcone, the prosecutor who first investigated Gamino, never saw his capture. He was assassinated in 1992, but his work lived on, and it helped lead investigators all the way to Galapagar. Gamino's story proves something simple. You can change your name. You can change your country. You can erase your past. But in a world full of cameras, satellites, databases, and digital traces, disappearing completely is almost impossible, because the world he escaped into in 2002 no longer exists, and the world that caught him is watching everything, and that is the end of the story.